What's going on, people? In this video we're about to break down all evidence from Attack on Titan that indicates the original Armored Titan was a lot different from the present day version. As we've seen in the anime so far, the abilities of a Titan shifter can evolve based on certain factors, with an example being how Eren gained hardening after consuming the armor serum, or how Falco's shifter is essentially a hybrid between the Draw and the Beast Titans. Today I'll be explaining why the first Armored Titan was very likely a hybrid just like this, and along the way we'll also be answering a few mysteries about the old Eldian Empire. If you stick around till the end, then you'll see how all the different elements of this theory link together, but before we get into it, don't forget to smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, then I'd really appreciate if you subbed as well. Also, I want to give a huge thanks to Dislike for sponsoring today's video, which is probably the best looking mobile game you're going to play this year. Dislike is a free-to-play RPG set in the near future, in which these giant things called miracles randomly appear across the planet. The arrival of these miracles leads to certain people inheriting the abilities of ancient gods, like this guy who literally gained the power of Thor. Other characters include this butler who inherited the power of Anubis, and as you can tell, these are the most iconic gods from different mythologies in ways you've never seen them before. For me personally, the pop fantasy art style was one of the main things that caught my attention straight away, and it was only made better by the high quality animation and the epic soundtrack. When it comes to gameplay, you can choose to fight the boss by yourself or you can automate the battle. Regardless of which option you prefer, just know that every Esper has their own individual attributes, so choosing the right team is important no matter how you choose to play. Anyhow, like I said, the game is free, so if you want to support my channel then be sure to download Dislike today using the link in the description, and you can also use my code to get special rewards. Okay, so to explain this Armored Titan theory, we need to flash back around 2000 years, to a time when there was only one shifter on the entire planet. That shifter was of course the original founding Titan Ymir, and after her death, King Fritz was desperate to make sure that the Eldian Empire didn't lose her power. Since she was the first ever Titan, nobody knew if her abilities could be passed down, and so he made his daughters eat Ymir, in the hope that maybe that would do something. Luckily for Fritz, the idea worked even better than he could have hoped, as Ymir's power wasn't just passed down to one person, but rather it was divided between the three of them. Maria, Rose and Cena each inherited their own unique Titan shifters that had never been seen before, and in the process, they became the first hybrid Titans. What I mean by hybrids is that their three shifters would have had a mixture of different traits from Ymir. For instance, one of them might have been larger than the others, another might have specialized in hardening, while another might have had a more beast-like appearance. In a second we'll break down how them being hybrids is very relevant to this theory, but first let's establish why Ymir's power was split in the first place. As an audience, we're not really used to the idea of Titan powers being divided like this, since most of the time one person will inherit one shifter, and that's usually the end of it. However, in chapter 122, Isayama spelled out for us why Ymir's power split into three, and it's all down to the method that Fritz used. As we can see, when multiple Eldians eat the spine of a shifter at the same time, the powers of that shifter are divided between all the people consuming it. This is directly proven by what Maria, Rose and Cena did, because up until this point, we had never seen a group of people eat the spine simultaneously. What this all means is that Fritz discovered a way for Eldia to increase the amount of shifters they had, which is why within just a few generations, the Empire went from having only one Titan to having an army of 9. These 9 Titans each had their own unique characteristics as we know, but from the beginning it was obvious that some were more closely related than others. For example, the Draw, Cart and Beast Titans all share animalistic features that none of the other shifters possess, and in the final arc of the series, Isayama went out of his way to highlight just how similar they are. The blatant resemblance between them isn't a coincidence, but rather it's the result of these 3 Titans descending from their same Titan hybrid. In that way, the Beast, Cart and Draw would essentially be siblings, as the 3 of them descended from one specific daughter of Ymir. The same is true when we examine the Attack, Female and Colossal, who each have an interesting connection. It goes without saying that the relation between their Female and Attack Titan is easy to explain, as they pretty much have the exact same athletic physique. This physique allows them to have decent levels of stamina, with Eren displaying that during the raid on Liberio, and Annie displaying it in the manga when the warriors first arrived. When it comes to the Colossal though, its massive size and lack of stamina is drastically different from the other two, but what it does have is a body lacking skin, which is a unique trait to both this and the female Titan. Finally, this brings us to the last and for this video the most important trio of Titans, which are the Armor, Warhammer and Founder. When we look into their history, it's undeniable that these 3 are the most naturally gifted when it comes to harnessing the power of Titan hardening. For 2000 years, they've evidenced this in various ways, whether it be Carl Fritz using the Founder to form the 3 enormous walls on Paradis, or whether it's the Warhammer using this power to create any weapon they want. We've already established that the 9 Titans of today are simply offshoots of hybrid Titans that used to exist, so it stands to reason that 2000 years ago, the first armored Titan was a hybrid between the Armourer and Warhammer. This is supported by the fact that when you examine them side by side, they're the only shifters in history to ever have some kind of shell or plates built onto their body. That alone makes it clear that they are closely related, in much the same way as the drawn card Titan, and it's where the idea for this theory came from. To put it simply, what this video is proposing is that after the daughter of Ymir died, her shifter was split between 2 children, one who gained the power of the founding Titan, and another who inherited something that had never been seen before. This hybrid shifter would have been a primitive version of what we now call the armored Titan, but at the time, its physical appearance would have been entirely new. I imagine the hardening surrounding its body would be significantly thicker than in the present day, which would limit the mobility of this Titan and make its movement slow compared to the others. The reason this would be the case is because this Titan would be like a prototype for Ymir, as it would be her first time sculpting a Titan like this in the past dimension. It's kind of implied that she's mostly responsible for the design of each Titan, and given that this would be her first shifter with built-in armor, there's bound to be something about it that would be a little bit unrefined. However, one benefit of the thick armor is that it would be quite literally unbreakable, especially when you consider that back then, no army would have anything close to armor-piercing bullets. On top of that, this hybrid would also need to have Warhammer powers of some kind, but in a way that's different to what we're used to. As an example, the user could transform one arm to form a large shield made of hardening, while the other arm could be turned into a large spike that would be sharp enough to pierce through any other shifter. Alternatively, its arms could be formed into blunt objects like a battering ram or something like that, which I guess could be useful for demolishing buildings or for squashing waves of soldiers in one go. Unfortunately though, its power wouldn't be able to create projectiles like the Warhammer, so it would be entirely limited to close-range combat. Anyway, with all that said, we're going to move on to explain why the Eldian Empire never made more than 9 shifters, despite having the knowledge of how to divide Titan powers. There are actually 3 main reasons why they stopped doing this, and those reasons are related to science, politics, and Norse mythology. Starting with the first point, it's well known by now that the Empire heavily experimented with Titan biology, as those experiments led to the creation of the Ackerman bloodline, as well as the Titan transformation serum. This serum has the potential to instantly transform any subject of Ymir into a pure Titan, and in chapter 107, Yelena confirmed that to replicate it you need materials, equipment, and experts in Titan science. That statement proves that this stuff is way more than just spinal fluid, and its discovery would have completely changed the way that shifters were passed down. Up until this invention, Eldian children would be in their human form while eating the bodies of their parents, and although this method led to the creation of more Titans, it was also incredibly disgusting. The transformation serum offered the nobles a more humane way of doing things, because when they became pure Titans, the whole process became a lot quicker and a lot less traumatizing for everyone involved. As a consequence, we can safely say that the invention of pure Titans is what led to this current system of one person being chosen to inherit one shifter, explaining why the power stopped dividing any further. Now, I also mentioned that politics would have been a factor in why no more shifters were created, and the reason for this is pretty simple. Willie Tybur explained in the final season that the 9 Titans were divided among 9 separate clans, with the royal family having the founder, the Tyburs having the Warhammer, and the remaining shifters being divided among the 7 other families. Judging from the Great Titan War, it's implied that many of these clans didn't have the best relationship, and it's inevitable that if one family has started creating new shifters, the other families would likely do the same thing in retaliation. A scenario like that would lead to an uncontrollable number of new shifters being made, and so it's reasonable to assume that something was done to prevent this from happening. On one hand, it's possible that the Fritz family established some kind of document or constitution which guaranteed that no family could have more than a single shifter. On the other hand though, maybe the founding Titan at the time took a more aggressive approach, and they used their power to manipulate the minds of the existing 8 families so that no one would even attempt to divide their power. Either of those options would explain why the number of shifters stayed so consistent for so long, and it only began to change when the Yeager started combining multiple shifters into one body. Lastly, the third reason there are only 9 Titans is connected to Isayama's love for Norse mythology, as the number 9 does have some significance when it comes to that topic. In Norse mythology, there are 9 separate realms including Asgard, and these realms are all connected to the Tree of Yggdrasil. In Attack on Titan, Yggdrasil is equivalent to the Coordinate, which is the tree-looking structure that links all Eldians together. This coordinate is how Ymir remains connected to all the 9 Titans, and so you can see why Isayama chose this number, as the number of shifters is meant to parallel the number of realms. Additionally, in both Attack on Titan and in Norse mythology, the name of the original giant was Ymir, proving that these similarities were all super intentional. Anyhow, in conclusion, 2000 years ago, King Fritz discovered a way to divide the power of the Titans, and that method was used to turn his 3 daughters into the first hybrid shifters. From there, more hybrids were made over the next few generations, which would have included prototype versions of the 9 Titans we're familiar with. During this time period, the Eldian Empire would have also been messing around with Titan science, which is how they gradually developed the Titan transformation serum. The invention of this serum meant that pure Titans were now a thing, and it permanently changed the way that shifters were passed down. This provides a rational explanation for why the Empire stopped making new shifters once they reached the number 9, but the significance of that number is also linked to Norse mythology. As always, thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't already then please do sub and hit that like button, as it does help out the channel. Until the next one, peace out.